Everyone knows Rosa Parks, but did you know I was the first black woman not to give up my train seat? It was 71 years before Rosa Parks even did this. Hi, I'm Ida B. Wells. My life began on July 16, 1862, in Holly Springs, Massachusetts. I had to drop out of school because my parents and brother died. I had to become a teacher to take care of my 7 siblings. At the age 23, I was married to Ferdinand L. Barnett. He helped me fight women's rights in Chicago, Illinois. We also had 5 kids. I was 33 the day I didn't give up my train seat. Remember, this was 71 years before Rosa Parks even did this. That day I had to fight back. I even bit a man in the arm so I wouldn't give up my train seat. And I also had to be taken off the train. You knew about Rosa Parks, but now you know about me. My life was full of helping African American population. I am remembered for fighting African American rights and women's rights. I died on March 25th, 1931 in Chicago, Illinois.
You can see my smile on him.
What's your passion? Well, my passion was music. It didn't come easy to me. I had to teach myself after my dad died. I am Daisy Gillespie, and my career began when I became a famous musician. It all started on October 21st, 1917 in Sherrill, South Carolina. I had 8 other siblings. My dad was abusive and strict. My dad died when I was 10 years old. I had a huge passion for music. After my dad died in 1927, I taught myself the trumpet and the trombone. I started taking music classes in North Carolina. I played in a number of bands. When I was 23, I married Lorraine Willis on May 9th, 1940 in Boston, Massachusetts. We had a daughter named Jeannie Bryson. I kept my daughter a secret for a while. My first professional job was in Frankie Fairfax's band. I later became a professional musician. In 1944, my first bebop recording session included my song, Woody and You. I played a lot with Charlie Parker. So I ask you again, what's your passion? My passion helped me become one of the most famous musicians. Even after I died on January 6, 1993 in Englewood, New Jersey, my legacy still lived on.
Can you play a solo for us? No. But I can do this. No. Imagine if you had no rights to do anything, but Eleanor Roosevelt helped with that. My life began on October 11, 1884. This day changed everybody's lives, and now you're gonna know my story. My life ended on November 7, 1962. When I was young, my mother died on 1892, and my father died 2 years later. Then was placed under the care of my grandmother. When I was the age of 15, I was sent to Ellen Woods Academia to develop chants among other girls' self-confidence. On October 11, 1904, I got my engagement ring on my 20th birthday. Previously on St. Patrick's Day, 1905, in New York, I got married to Franklin D. Roosevelt. On 1933, I entered the White House. Within 11 years, I gave birth to 6 children and only 5 survived to adulthood. My greatest accomplishment, I was one of the greatest social workers of the 20th century, and I also opened a whole new way for future ladies in the White House. I was one of the most active first ladies in history. I worked for political, racial, social justice. After President Roosevelt's death, I continue to serve or advocate for a wide range of human rights issues. Imagine being trapped in a palace for the rest of your life just to give freedom to your people. This is what me, Queen Liliuokalani, did. When my brother died, I was the next one to rule Hawaii. But the only problem was that my people didn't have any freedom. So while I was the queen, that was the only thing I wanted to accomplish. In 1862, I married John Owen Dominus. I had 3 children of my own and adopted 3. My one and favorite hobby is crocheting, and my passions were writing music and singing the music I wrote. I was born on September 2nd, 1838 in Honolulu, Hawaii, and died on November 11, 1917 in Honolulu, Hawaii. Think again. Imagine being trapped in a palace for the rest of your life in order to give your people freedom. To this day, I am remembered for having house arrest to give freedom to my people. I didn't live a good life, but when I died on November 11, 1917, my history still lived on. Imagine your dad drops you and your sister off at an orphanage. You have nothing, but that's okay because you changed history. I'm Coco Chanel, and that's what happened to me. I was born January 19th, 1883, in the countryside of France. Soon after, my mother died, then my dad put me and my sister in an orphanage. While I was in an orphanage, I learned how to sew. Me and my sister, we grew up there, and my sister had a child. She soon after killed herself, and I grew up raising the child, and I made women's clothing and jewelry and perfume. And people started buying it. I helped with making women's clothes, and I'm the person who helped make women's pants. My first successful perfume was Chanel No. 5. I had a poor childhood, and my mom died at 38, and my dad put me in an orphanage at 12. So if I ask you again, if all these things happened to you, what would you do? I lived through it, and I'm happy to say my name is Coco Chanel. If you were president, how would you change the world? I, Franklin D. Roosevelt, changed it during the Great Depression. I made the New Deals. Born January 30th, 1882, Hyde Park, New York. I was born January 30th, 1882, Hyde Park, New York. I was born rich, and my parents are Sarah Roosevelt and James Roosevelt. I lived most of my childhood with my mother. I was privately tutored until I was 14. After attending high school, I went to Harvard College and then Columbia Law School. I had a dog named Follow, a Scottish Terrier. It was buried near my grave. I served 4 years as governor of New York. I became Assistant Secretary of the Navy in 1913 through 1920. I was infected by polio in 1921 when I was 39 years old. I lived in a wheelchair my whole entire adulthood. I was elected president in 1932. I was the 32nd president. I canceled out the 18th Amendment, and my hobby is stamp collecting, and I approved over 200 stamps. Also, I was the first president to fly on an airplane. I sent aid to England in 1940 and declared a war in 1941. My inspiration was Theodore Roosevelt. I served 4 terms, but my 4th shortened by death. So I ask you again, how would you change the world? Well, I did it by making choices. I died April 12, 1945 in Georgia. Upon death, I lied to stay at the U.S. Capitol. I am remembered as one of the most influential presidents. What would you do if you were in the Hall of Fame? Well, I would. One of the things I was most famous for was for holding 714 world record. I held it till 1974. I was born February 6, 1895. I played my first Major League Baseball game 99 years ago this week. Before I was 8, I already chewed tobacco and drank whiskey. My parents sent me to St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys. I hit my first professional home run on March 7th, 1914. My first official World Series appearance was in 1915. I grounded out at first and did not pitch in the 5-game win streak against the Phillies. My last official appearance was a first base coach for the Brooklyn Dodgers. When I was a kid, my parents owned a large tavern and I had to work long hours. My dad died in a fight with a family member. I went to St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys and became a permanent board at school. I died August 16th, 1948. And again, what would you do if you were in the Hall of Fame? Imagine being one of the first famous female photographers during the Great Depression, where nobody had jobs and there I was capturing these horrible experiences. Hello, I'm Dorothea Lang and this is my story. My life began on May 26, 1895 in Hoboken, New Jersey. My parents ended up getting divorced on April 29th, 1997, when I was only 12 years old. I was born in a middle-class family. I went to college at Columbia University. I went there for 1 year for photography, 1917 through 1918. I started photography in 1917 in college.
I started out as an independent portrait photographer in San Francisco, but soon began photographing the homeless in order to bring attention to their struggle. My famous photo, Migrant Mother, is one of the series of photographs I have taken. It was took in 1936, March of Nimmo, California. It was a documentary during the Great Depression and chef struggle. Other photos are White Angel Redline, Ditched and Stranded, The Road West, Damaged Child, The Ex-Slave Long Memory, and Medicala Down, and many more. My first husband was Maynard Dixon. He was in a period. We had two children, John Dixon and Daniel Dixon. Me and Maynard Dixon got married sometime in 1920. My second husband was Paul Chester Taylor. We got married December 6, 1935. I died on October 11th, 1965. I left my children and husbands behind, but they shall remember me as long as they live. I'm Dorothea Lang, and this is why people remember me today.
Imagine your parents abandoned you, but didn't tell you until they never came back. That's right, that's me, Charlie Chaplin. I was abandoned at 8 and adopted at 10. My parents that adopted me instantly found out I like to do drama dance and put me in dance school, and then I found out I want to be an actor. Here's my story. And I was born April 16th, 1889, and was adopted. My parents that adopted me were very supportive of my choices. I forgot the cards.
That's okay.
I became a professional entertainer after filming Night in English Music Hall, and that was also my first film. In 1914, I became the Little Tramp, and this was huge for me because it helped me fulfill my dreams. Throughout my life, I had 11 kids and 4 wives. I was in 6 huge silent comedy films because that's what I love and that's what I do. I died at age 88 in my casket was stolen. They later found my casket and buried me in Hollywood. Now imagine being abandoned and making this fun. My name is Charlie Chaplin. I died December 25th, 1977, and was very important to Hollywood and still remembered to this day.
Imagine trying to celebrate the news so you fire a gun into the air. Bam! Immediately arrested. This is my story, Louis Armstrong. I was only a preteen trying to have fun. I was born in New Orleans on August 4th, 1901. When I was a child, I lived in a neighborhood so dangerous it was called the battlefield. I dropped out after 5th grade to help my family. I had 2 brothers and 1 sister. On New Year's Eve, 1912, I shot my stepdad's gun into the air and was immediately arrested. Later, I got sent to a reform school or the Colored Waifs Home for Boys. In 1913, while I was at the home, I started playing in the Waifs Home brass band. I played the cornet. When I was 17, I got married for the first time. I got married 4 times. As an adult, I played in and made 3 bands. The first one was Red Onion Jazz Babies, which lasted from 1924 to 1925. Louis Armstrong and the Hot 5 lasted from 1925 to 1928. Louis Armstrong and the Hot 7 lasted from 1927 to 1928. Imagine if I had not shot that gun into the air. I might not have found my passion for music. I died of a heart attack in Queens, New York on July 6, 1971. I was famous for my music, and I'm glad I was.
Imagine seeing your dead child beside the road after you pay to have him back. That was me, Charles Lemon. My life began in 1902 when I was done my passion with the power of flight. Soon after, I flew across the Atlantic Ocean. After that, I joined the Air Force. I died in Hawaii in 1974. Though I died, my legacy lives on. I worked on the perfusion pump that helped organs set alive outside the body. So imagine being one of the most famous people in the world and being repaid with your child's death. That was me, Charles Lemon.
Imagine drinking on prohibition, yet getting kicked off the college newspaper. My name is Dr. Seuss, and this is my story. I was born on March 2nd, 1904, in Springfield, Massachusetts. I graduated from Lincoln College, Oxford. I was an undergraduate at Dartmouth College. I left in 1927 and began my career as a cartoonist. I was known for writing children's books. I was married to Helen Palmer, who died in 1967. I was remarried to Audrey Stone in 1968. My real name was Theodore Seuss Geisel. I served the Navy. I won the Lewis Carroll Award in 1958. I died on September 24, 1991 at age 87, and it was a tragic day. I mean, imagine being kicked off the college newspaper like me, changing the lives of kids. Kids' lives are still changed today by my world's famous books, and yours truly, Dr. Seuss.
You may be wondering who I am. Well, I helped build the atomic bomb, and I helped change modern science, and I am Albert Einstein. I was born in Ulm, Germany, and was very smart and won a Nobel Prize for my studies in physics. I never actually did well in school and was told I would be a failure. Later in my life, I would discover E equals mc squared. I died on April 18th, 1955 from an abdominal aortic aneurysm.
Imagine having a dream of changing the world. I am Theodore Roosevelt. How would your dream change the world? My dream changed the world by making it more fair and peaceful. My life began on October 27, 1858. I had asthma as a kid. I loved to read and write. I went to Harvard College and Columbia Law School. In 1901, I became the USA president. In 1906, I won the Nobel Peace Prize for mediating an end to the Russo-Japanese War. I married Alice Hathaway Lee Roosevelt. She died on February 14, 1884. I had one daughter, Alice. My second wife was Edith Kermit Carroll. She died on February 14, 1884. We had 5 children: Theodore Jr., Kermit, Ethel, Quentin, Archibald. My life changed the world. For 60 years, my life changed the world. I died on January 6, 1919 in Oyster Bay, New York. Even if I'm dead, people still remember me because of what I did.
Jack Dempsey. What if you had to hit or get hit for a living? Or you had to mine and farm your whole childhood? Welcome to my life. It all began on June 2nd, 1895 in Manassas, Colorado. I used to box my brother on the fields. I dropped out of 8th grade to box and pursue my dreams. I started boxing in 1914. At the age of 17, I was traveling around the world boxing. I got married to Maxine Gates in 1916. 2 years passed and I got a divorce because I didn't love her anymore. In 1918, I fought Willard and knocked him to the ground 7 times in 1 round. On September 14th, 1923, I fought Louis Engelfurter in New York. I got knocked out the ring in the first round, but splattered him in the second round. 2 years later, I got married to Estelle Taylor. On September 22nd, 1927, I fought Louis Engelfurter again and he forfeited first round. In 1934, I had my little angel of the name of Jamie Hannah Dempsey. A couple of years later, I had my second little angel of the name of Barbara Dempsey. After I had my daughters, all I played were expeditions and published a few books. I retired in 1940 and became a successful restaurant owner. In my career, I had 84 boxing matches, 51 knockouts, 61 wins, and 23 losses. I got an award for being one of the best boxers in 1940. On May 31st, 1983, I died from a heart attack in New York. Getting hit and hitting people for a living really changed my life. It made me famous, wealthy, and world-changing. In conclusion, I was a well-known heavyweight boxer from Manassas, Colorado.
Imagine not being able to see or hear.
When I was little, I met this lady. She was trying to teach me. One day, she took me outside and stuck one of my hands underwater, then spelled the word water on my other hand. This was it. I finally understood. My name is Helen Keller, and this is my story. I was born in Tuscumbia, Alabama on June 27, 1880. I was the eldest of 4 siblings. At the age of 2, I became extremely ill. After I became well, my parents noticed that I wasn't responding and took me to see Alexander Graham Bell. Since I had no clue what was happening, I got mad very easily. But on March 3rd, 1887, I met my teacher, Ann Sullivan, and she started helping me. I went to Radcliffe College and I never got married or had kids, but I did become an author of several books. I also learned to speak by putting my hand on their throat and mouth as they said a word. What things I'm most known for are learning to speak, learning the word water from my teacher, Ann Sullivan. I'm also known for giving speeches to others, and I'm also known for writing the books that I wrote. Imagine going through all these difficulties but still getting an amazing award. I ended up getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom. After everything I went through, I died on June 1st, 1968 in Easton, Connecticut.
Have you ever had a choice over $100 or your dream? Well, I chose $100 because me to be banned because of black scale in 1919. My life began on July 16, 1887 in Greenville, South Carolina. When I was 6 years old, my family forced me to work in a cotton mill because they were in debt, so I never went to school. When I was 13, I was an outstanding baseball player. When I got older, I became even better, and baby was inspired by me. And even my bat, which I named Black Betsy, is famous. So next time you have a decision of $100 or your dream, what would you choose? I'm Sheila Jackson. I died with a low-paying job at the age of 69 in Greenville, South Carolina on December 5th, 1966, still being banned from baseball.